you know the difference between see, look, and watch? After you've watched this video, you will! I'm Gillian Scott. I helped develop the Pet Gold English course book, and I've been teaching English as a foreign language since 2013. The general meaning of to see is to receive visual information through your eyes, either intentionally or unintentionally. So you don't need to make any effort in order to see. We can say, for example, "Can you please put the light on so that I can see?" Julie didn't see who was driving the car. I can see you. We'll come back to see again later because it's also used in other more specific ways. To look means to receive visual information through your eyes intentionally. Because looking is intentional, you need to move your eyes in order to do it. This means that looking does require some effort. Also, the act of looking usually happens for a shorter period of time. For example, they looked at the man dressed as a banana and laughed. He didn't even look up from his newspaper when I came in the room. She looked out of the window to find out where the noise was coming from. We use look with stationary visual art. In other words, visual art that does not move. Stationary visual art includes things like paintings, sculpture, photographs, posters, prints, mosaics, and jewellery. Earlier, I said that usually the act of looking happens for a shorter period of time. However, when we're talking about stationary visual art, we use look regardless of the length of time that the act of looking happens for. For example, we looked at the paintings in the gallery for hours. We're not very interested in sculpture, so we only spent a few seconds looking at each exhibit. I loved looking at the mosaics and the jewellery because they were both so intricate. Intricate means very complex or very detailed. And I find that word difficult to say. Do you? Let me know in the comments. Okay, one more example. I like looking at my old holiday snaps because it reminds me of the good times. Snaps is an informal word for photographs, usually ones you've taken yourself. Also, notice that when look has an object, it's followed by the dependent preposition at. We can see this in the previous examples. However, at is often dropped or not used at all before w clauses. For example, we can say, "Look what you've done," or "Look at what you've done." But we usually just say, "Look where you're going," without at. To watch means to look at something for a longer period of time. We watch things that change, move, or develop. For example, I felt like someone was watching me. The police watched the parked car all night in the hope that the thief would come and steal it. Sometimes I like to sit in a cafe and watch the people outside walk past. We use watch with moving visual art. Moving visual art refers to things like films, TV programs, videos, plays, and concerts. We also use watch with sports events. For example, did you watch EastEnders on TV last night? EastEnders is a popular British soap. I love watching Gillian Scott's English videos. We didn't go to the stadium to watch the match. We stayed at home and watched it on the telly instead. Telly is an informal way to say television. Also, notice that watch has a silent letter. The T is silent. Now, if you're not familiar with the phonetic alphabet, you might be looking at the phonetic script and thinking, I can see a T in there. So let me explain. In the International Phonetic Alphabet, we do have this symbol, which is the symbol for the phoneme T. And separately, we also have this symbol, which is the symbol for the phoneme sh. But there is also another symbol, this symbol, which looks like a combination of those two other symbols together, but it's actually a completely separate symbol. And this is the symbol for the phoneme ch. So this is what we can see in the phonetic script for watch. So the T in watch is silent. So listen and repeat. Watch. 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 Earlier, I said we'd come back to see again because it also has a more specific meaning. This meaning of to see is to experience. We use to see with the meaning to experience with both stationary visual art and moving visual art and with sports events. For instance, I saw some great paintings at the weekend. The film I saw at the cinema last night was absolutely awful. Have you seen the nature documentary series Planet Earth? And seeing a rugby match in a stadium is better than seeing it on TV. However, as always with English, there are some exceptions. We do not use to see with the word television or with any other words that mean television. So the following examples are wrong. We do not say, I saw television last night. I saw TV last night. I saw telly last night. I saw the box last night. The box is another informal word for television. Instead, we use watch. So we do say, I watched television last night. I watched TV last night. I watched telly last night. I watched the box last night. Just to be clear though, we do use see to talk about experiencing television programs. And we saw this in one of the previous examples. Have you seen the nature documentary series Planet Earth? It's just the word television, or other words which mean television, that we don't use see with. And I'm afraid there's another exception. We do not use see to talk about experiences that are in progress. In other words, we do not use see with the meaning to experience in continuous tenses. So again, the next examples are wrong. We do not say, I'll be seeing the basketball game at 3. I was seeing Bridget Jones while my friend was seeing The Godfather. I was seeing some jewellery at the Louvre when thieves broke in and stole it. Instead, we use watch or look as appropriate. So, we can say, I'll be watching the basketball game at 3. I was watching Bridget Jones while my friend was watching The Godfather. I was looking at some jewellery in the Louvre when thieves broke in and stole it. Now I have a quiz for you on see, look and watch. You're going to see and hear some sentences, but there are gaps in the sentences. Complete the sentences with see, look at, or watch. You'll also need to put the verbs into the correct form. Don't worry, I'll give you some thinking time for each one. Okay, number 1. Would you like to come and the new photography exhibition with me? Would you like to come and see the new photography exhibition with me? Here, see has the meaning experience. Number 2, stop. The photo's on my phone. Stop looking at the photos on my phone. We're using look because we're talking about stationary visual art. Also, did you get the correct form? Looking, the ing form. Or did you say to look, the infinitive form? Stop is one of these verbs that can be followed either by the ing form or by the infinitive form. But the meaning is different. If you're not sure about the difference, don't worry, because I already have a video about this. I've linked to it here and in the comments and at the end of this video, so you can watch that video right after this one. Okay, back to the quiz. Number 3, Yolanda, the dress in the shop window, but decided it wasn't for her. Yolanda looked at the dress in the shop window, but decided it wasn't for her. This is using look for receiving visual information through your eyes intentionally. Yolanda intentionally moved her eyes so that she could see the dress. Number 4, Ben had just missed the train and could only stand and as it sped off into the distance. Ben had just missed the train and could only stand and watch as it sped off into the distance. This is using watch for something that can change, move, or develop. The train is moving. Number 5. It was really annoying because while I was the play, other people were making noise. It was really annoying because while I was watching the play, other people in the audience were making noise. Here, we're talking about an experience, but we have to use watch because we're using a continuous tense. Number 6 and number 7. Yes, there are 2 gaps in this last sentence. These days, I still films at the cinema, but I rarely TV. These days, I still see or watch films at the cinema, but I rarely watch TV. In the first gap, we can use see with the meaning experience, or we can use watch because we're talking about moving visual art. But in the second gap, we can only use watch because we only use watch with the word television or other words that mean television. So, how did you do? What's your score out of 7? Let me know in the comments. Also, try writing some sentences using see, look, and watch in the comments too. Next, check out this video. Alternatively, watch this playlist, which I also think you'll love. Good luck with your English!